This is the point in the show that I introduce our analysts who are here to give their perspectives on nearly everything we've covered in the last 45 minutes or so on the program. And today, of course, my special guest has been the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi, who's emerged as a powerful force ahead of Nigeria's presidential ballot in February next year. And to analyse some of what he said, I'm joined now in the studio by the journalist, policy strategist and Arise News analyst Waziri Adio, and the, of course, Arise political editor, Sambo. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Let me come to you first, Waziri. What did you make of what he said?
Yeah, fantastic outing. Very eloquent. Spoke well, as expected. But I was looking for more. Maybe it's me. The campaign has started. All the things that people were doing before was more or less like dress rehearsal. Now, we have started the campaign. Today is day one. It's still early days yet. And it's going to be a long campaign, almost 150 days, So I wanted details, not just about we're going to create jobs, we're going to tackle corruption, we're going to, all those things, we're going to tackle security and all of that. Specific things. What exactly are you going to do? And maybe when they come up with their manifesto, maybe that's when we can get granular. We can say, okay, these are the key things you want to achieve through your manifesto, and these are the specific things that you plan to do, and this is how you plan to go about them, and this is the timeline. This is what I think we need to see in this campaign. Some of the things that he also spoke about, I'm a bit concerned, especially about the oil sector. Maybe his advisors need to work more with him on that. For example, he said, our OPEC quota is 1.8 million barrels per day, which is true. And that we produce only about a little over 1 billion barrels per day, which is also true. But the way he allocated the 700,000 barrels, the gap, as everything stolen, that is not true. We didn't produce 1.8. So you couldn't say that 700,000 barrels was stolen. Beyond that, he was assuming that the entire 1.8 million barrels will go to the government. No, government gets about 30% of the total production. So I expect a lot more, and I think he needs his advisors now that we're getting to the campaigns. He needs his advisors to. It's a very technical area, but if you're aspiring to be the president of Nigeria, you should know about the sector that still accounts for the bulk of Nigeria's foreign exchange. There are some other issues like subsidy. There are some areas that his messaging needs to get sharper. I needs to clarify what he wants to do. And of
course, you are a bit of an expert in the oil area. So I mean, I can understand how you're being quite forensic in your examination. What about you, Sumner? You're our political editor. You're the one who keeps an eye on these things and how they go. What is your assessment?
Thank you so much, Charles. I must start by thanking Peter Obi for bringing a fresh outlook into the way presidential campaigns have been held, especially in the last decade. Most times, the major parties have often taken Nigerians for granted, but this is a breath of fresh air. I mean, if you even read what Bloomberg had written about what is bringing to the table, you still know that the fears are there that, look, I mean, Peter Obi doesn't have the much majority that's needed to lead to a major upset. But is he a likely threat to these bigger political parties? Yes, we're beginning to see some of those things coming out there and being shown. But like Waziri has said earlier on, I think I shared that thought myself. Peter Obi needs to spend more time with his strategists to talk about the deep things about Nigeria. Look, there are some very critical issues, Charles, that we need to start talking about. apart from the issues of security and all of that. Let's talk about population control, for example. We've not been able to talk about holding a census for a long period of time. This government is proposing that. What is a potential Labour Party government going to do with such an issue? And then, for example, when you asked him the question about what he's going to do, if he's going to be granting amnesty to bandits or having a session with them, he was a bit evasive on that aspect. We need to be very, very clear as to how he intends to, do something drastic differently from what we've always done. I mean, look at the security architecture of the country. The last time we had a massive unbundling was in the 80s and 90s when Shehu Shagari, and specifically former head of state, General Ibrahim Babangida, dismantled some of the security organizations and tried to bring a new security architecture that will help resolve the nation's security challenges. This same security architecture has been inherited by all these other administrations, unless maybe if you talk about the, for example, the Civil Defense Corps that was added by the Olusegun Obasanjo administration. We haven't seen a very key aspect of reforms in that sector. We need to hear more on that. And by now, I thought the Labour Party wanted to create something different. Why don't we have their manifesto out yet?
That's a good point.
Why don't we have their presidential campaign council out yet? I mean, these are things that we need to see the Labour Party doing and showing to us. And why are they focusing on the presidency? So if there's no Peter Obi, who else should be doing the talking on his behalf? I would suggest at this point that if you look at the body language of the major political parties, they are saving their hit days for almost like maybe 2 months to the election. He's coming out too early. Based on the Nigerian polity that I know, I think he should spend more time with his strategists, try to focus more on the issues that we are running away from. Fuel subsidy is one controversial issue you asked him about, and he didn't address that to our satisfaction. Stolen crude, yes, he's been talking so much about that. What should be done?
Right.
When especially he finds that some people who may want to back him in one way or the other are behind some of these things that are happening. I mean, you pointed it clearly, Charles, that when you get into government, it's a different ballgame. What will you do? I wasn't so satisfied with his answer.
Sumner, I want to thank you very much indeed. And Waziri Adio, of course, thank you ever so much. Thank you.